All right, and good day to everyone listening. This is Rich Casanova once again on another exciting episode of Buckhead Business Radio Show. And we have, as usual, we have a great lineup of guests here in the studio joining us for this edition. And we just want to say welcome to Alan Jones. First of all, you're with HiFi Buys. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, and you came all the way from around the corner here in Buckhead, right?
Yes, I sure did.
And you have some pretty exciting news. We don't want to give away too much information, but tell us kind of what you might be chatting about and kind of the HiFi's version 2.0 or something, right?
Yes. We're actually resurrecting HiFi Buys in Buckhead, the brand again, and I've been in the business for over 30 years.
Wow.
And look forward to being able to share that experience today with folks and be able to have them come down for our grand opening this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah, and go ahead and mention those dates and location real quick before we get underway. So,
the store is located at 3157 Peachtree Road Northeast, and that's Atlanta, of course, 30305, right there in the Buckhead Triangle. And it is the 17th, 18th, and 19th, which is this coming Thursday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
All right, cool. And for folks that may not familiar with Buckhead and the street address, what's kind of some landmarks or where are you guys near?
What's the corner everybody knows pretty much Huff Furniture or the White House, which I think I've eaten at a few times. And right across the street from it has been a big and tall store called DXL. And we're actually in the lower level of that. And it's at the corner of Grandview and Peachtree. Okay,
perfect. So, Alan, thanks for joining us here in the studio. We'll be hearing lots of updates and news and all the good stuff going on at HiFi Buys over there. And so stay tuned for that. But first up in our studio, we're being joined by a couple of folks here from Cresa Atlanta. And first of all, welcome to Paula. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having us.
And we'll kind of get into the whole segment in just a minute. But what's your position? What keeps you busy over there at Cresa?
Well, I'm the official cat herder at Cresa. I'm COO and manage the business side of our operation.
Okay, and also joining you in the studio is Cloteen. I get that correct?
You got that perfectly. Thank you.
All right. I'll mess it up a little bit later, but right out of the gates, I got it right. And Cloteen Jasmin, and you're what keeps you busy and occupied over there?
Well, my official title is Senior Vice President of Corporate Solutions, but the unofficial title, not quite cat herder, but I work with the clients. So I would be the single point of contact for clients and helping them manage their transactions.
Okay, perfect. And we mentioned the brand, but tell us what y'all do, type of business.
So Cresa is a corporate real estate advisory firm, and we provide traditional brokerage services. What a lot of people are familiar with when you think about real estate is actual real estate transactions. But we go beyond that. We provide real estate consulting services, project management for construction projects and interior build-outs, lease administration. So we have a variety of services that we provide in addition to traditional brokerage.
Okay. Well said, and ditto for Paula. Did she pretty well cover it, what y'all do over there?
Yes, she did. We're a national, actually an international company. We have more than 58 offices in the United States.
Wow.
Our Atlanta office is always one of the top 10 offices.
If you don't say so yourself, right?
If I don't say so myself. So
international markets. We actually do international business radio here on Wednesday. What markets are you guys in outside of
Well, we've always had owned offices in India. Okay. We have 5 offices there. We also have, they're in North America.
Right.
We have 5 Canadian offices. Okay. And we're in all the major U.S. markets. And we've just started expanding greatly over in Europe.
Oh, wow. Do you get a chance to go over and do research over there in the other markets, or
I wish.
Right. We're hoping to get asked to go there.
Nice.
We'd like to go to the New Belgium office personally.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Okay, so let's kind of jump in real quick, kind of a formal intro of y'all. So, Cloteen, you've been 17 years experience in commercial real estate, former CPA, real estate attorney, corporate executive. You developed significant experience negotiating and closing a broad range of complex office and industrial leases, multi-layered purchase and sales transaction, and big box build to suits.
That's right.
That's not the suits you wear. That's the suit to fit,
building,
right?
Yeah, it's actually building a big box to suit the tenant's needs.
Right, right. And you've represented and advised clients, real estate transactions throughout the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and the U.K. Nice. All right, and let's just kind of formally introduce Paula. As you mentioned, you're the Senior VP of Operations for Cresa Atlanta, responsible for all aspects in addition to cat herding, right? But the management of commercial real estate, international corporate real estate advisory that exclusively represents offices for industrial tenants, the largest pure tenant-only represented firm in North America, as you mentioned, with 58 offices.
Now we say we're the largest tenant rep firm in the world.
That's really?
Right. Our largest competitor was just merged with a full-service firm, so we're the last standalone pure tenant representation.
So we don't need Randy here in the studio or Alan or anybody else to do any fact checking on this for us, or
yeah, there you go.
We'll take your word or whatever. Yeah. All right. Well, wow, that's big stuff. Pretty exciting. And so you're also the immediate past president, and we're going to talk about this, of the Georgia Executive Women's Network.
That's correct.
Okay. Facilitated the merger as a ProWin in 2014. What type of merger with ProWin?
Well, Georgia Executive Women's Network is a more than 30-year-old organization started back in the day where women really had to fight their way through to be known in business. And we were just a great support group for one another, peer-to-peer support. And ProWin has been very successful in the last, I think, 10 to 12 years in doing much the same thing. And we decided there was strength and safety in numbers. So we merged our Georgia Executive Network with ProWin.
Okay.
So we're now all under the ProWin brand, if you will.
And you also participate on the TAG Finance Society Board?
Yes. Cresa is a sponsor of TAG.
Okay.
And we also have a quarterly financial roundtable, and anyone that's listening is welcome to join us. We offer programs for CPAs and controllers of major companies to come together and provide continuing education for them.
Okay. All right, so let's jump right into kind of the Q&A, if you will, here. So, and either one of you, I guess, can kind of jump in on this here, but talk to us about a tenant rep. Is it kind of what it sounds like to be, or what might people not expect that the hats you wear as a tenant rep?
It is actually what it sounds like.
Okay.
As Paula mentioned, we are the largest tenant rep firm in the world. And when you think about a real estate transaction, particularly a real estate lease, for example, there are two parties. You have your landlord and your tenant. Well, most commercial brokerage firms represent both sides. They have people who represent landlords, and they have people who represent tenants. We think that's a conflict of interest. We only represent the tenants. And I'll give you an analogy. A lot of people can relate to the legal profession. You think about a lawsuit, and you've got an attorney negotiating on your behalf. Well, what if your attorney said, okay, well, I'm going to go over and talk to my other client, and he's representing the other party in the transaction? That's a violation of, an attorney's rules of ethics. And we think very strongly that the best representation for a client is a conflict-free representation. We chose the tenants, and so that's who we stand behind.
Yeah, we call that an moment, yeah, like rut-row. Yeah, that's just, but it happens more often than you might think, or...
It does. I mean, if you think about if you look out your window right now into the horizon, you see lots of buildings,
yep.
Lots of office buildings. There's lots of business taking place in those buildings. So the person who owns that building is the landlord. Sometimes it's an investor. Maybe they own just that one. Maybe they own lots of buildings.
Right.
But their core business, the way that they make money, is through real estate. Well, what about the people inside? The people inside the building, like us,
tenants, right,
we're
exactly.
the tenants.
Right, yeah.
We make widgets, we sell, audio and video equipment. We aren't in the business of real estate.
Right.
And so we think that having brokers represent both the landlord who's in the business of real estate and the tenants who are not, puts the tenants at a great disadvantage, because the landlord's naturally going to do multiple transactions and have the upper hand.
Definitely conflict of interest, yeah. And I appreciate you acknowledge and recognize, we call this our $1 million Buckhead view, whatever. I'm pretty excited about it here at the studio. So talk to us about, your representation, basically you're talking about space users being conflict-free.
That's right. That's right. So we represent the occupiers, the users of the space, and we do that in a competent, competitive manner. I mean, if you think about the last time a company, has signed a commercial lease or entered into a transaction, maybe every 5 to 10 years. Well, our Atlanta office at Cresa, on average, does about 300 transactions a year. So you have the benefit of the experience of a broker, a commercial advisor who has this, who does this on a regular basis, on a daily basis. We're negotiating and advising tenants, and that you're getting competent representation, but that representation is just for those tenants and conflict free.
So either one of you, but maybe Paula. Well said. We're getting thumbs up here in the studio. Yeah. So Paula, talk to us about maybe the market for office and industrial space, how it's changed rapidly. What changes have you seen over the years, and from the tenants' favor to the landlords, or?
Right. It's been a tenants market here in Atlanta for probably the last 5 or so years with the recession and so forth. And we're a very good example of what we did for our own tenants. We actually moved to Buckhead 3 years ago into a building that was 40% occupied, got a great deal, free parking, et cetera. You can't get that deal anymore.
I say hook me up with that or whatever, yeah. We got to pay parking coming and going, yeah.
It has been a tenant's market for quite a while, and we were very successful in renegotiating leases for our current clients and helping new clients find office and industrial space and get them into great leases that will be a real profit, for their bottom line over the next however long their lease lasts. The pendulum has swung to the other side now. It is now a landlord's market.
Oh, okay.
There's been, as you can notice around Atlanta, not a lot of cranes, and the cranes that you do see are multifamily, basically apartments.
Yeah.
Very few office buildings constructed or even proposed at this time. You've got one right around the corner, 3 Alliance. It's the only major building proposed for the Atlanta market that's under construction. So as these businesses filled up, Buckhead, Central Perimeter, Cumberland, Midtown, there's a lack of office space now for certain sized clients. And so negotiations are much tougher now. Landlords are cutting back on their concessions, like, for example, free rent or money to improve the office space, what we would call tenant improvement allowance, and so forth. So you need a tenant rep even more now to represent you.
So you guys, did I hear you say you moved your Atlanta offices here to Buckhead?
We moved to Buckhead 3 years ago. Okay. In the middle of the downturn, and just got a great deal.
It's all about timing, right?
We're set here for 10 years now.
Now, speaking of office and cranes, I live just around the corner, about 4.8 miles from here in Sandy Springs, and that is just getting out of control. I mean, they just blew up on Hammond residential in terms of condos and apartments. Now, State Farm has taken over. I mean, they're going up over MARTA, and it's just crazy. Mm-hmm. And then Mercedes-Benz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I live in the same area, so I see it every day.
Right.
And experience the traffic from it every day.
Yeah, and there's jackhammers out on Ashford Dunwoody. We have no idea what they're doing there. Right. They're making a lot of noise. But no, obviously you guys, so your exclusive focus is in office.
And industrial.
Industrial.
Mm-hmm.
So not so much, because there has been some, if you kind of continue the build out on the retail, like Buckhead Atlanta is one of the biggest projects, and then now we have HiFi Buys has taken over that whole space over there, but that's not in your sandbox or.
Right. We partner with SRS nationally. SRS is a tenant representation firm for retail.
Okay, yeah.
So the retail market's very different than industrial and office space.
And what are some, Alan's kind of shaking his head over there, but when you mentioned SRS, yeah. But
you needed them, Alan.
Well, I'm listening intently.
So
hope you didn't sign that lease yet.
Yeah. We'll talk after the show, whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
But now, what are some differences? I know we want to focus on commercial and industrial, but why are they different? When you're talking about condos or especially residential, or retail. I think retail would be kind of similar, but no. What are some differences?
Well, yeah, the retail transactions are very different than an office or an industrial transaction. And Alan can maybe let us know if he agrees with this, but when it comes to retail, location and visibility is extremely important. Exactly. The demographics are extremely important. So when, and what commercial transaction advisors do, whether on the retail side, the office side, or the industrial side, is we work with those clients to help them not only identify available space in the market, but space that will fit their business need and fit their business model. And so for a retailer, oftentimes that is visibility on a lower level, street level walk-in with signage and other things that will draw customers in, and you're looking for both the word of mouth customers as well as customers just to see you driving by.
Right.
Versus in an office building, a very profitable, very successful business could be hidden away from view high up in the sky, and you don't even know they're there.
I know. That's one of my pet peeves is when we moved the studio to Buckhead is, I've lived in Atlanta for a while and been in and out of Buckhead, but when you, your GPS will get you to the financial district and so forth in Buckhead, and you're at the Sovereign building or whatever, it'll get you there, and you say, and the GPS says, you've now arrived. And you look, and there's 9 buildings, and none of them have a single sign anywhere on the building. Everybody just, oh, yeah, it's a Sovereign building. Well, I didn't know that. It doesn't say it on GPS. And then you have one address that covers that entire 50-story building.
I did that this morning, actually.
Yeah.
But I was happy you had the sign out front.
Right,
so.
yeah. Yeah. So, but now I kind of get it. So I guess the retail is typically, you're not looking at a retail that's a high-rise or and in terms of signage and so forth that you mentioned. So so let's go back to, as a listener, if I'm looking at that office space or the industrial space, what are some key indicators or factors looking at, wanting to renew or when the lease process comes back around?
Well, one thing that would be helpful, we joke about not being able to see what's inside the buildings and not being able to find the office spaces. One thing is if you are a tenant and you're in a space, let's say you're in an office space, for example, you've been there for a while. Perhaps the building is sort of, in a state of disrepair, or maybe the building is aging. Maybe you want to attract a younger, newer type of employee, or maybe retain a different type of employee. One of the things that you may not be aware of is what space is comparable, or maybe if you want to upgrade, what spaces are available in that market. And so as a tenant, even if you're thinking about renewing where you are, it's always very helpful to know what your options are, what else is available. And sometimes just sitting down with an advisor like our advisors at Cresa and having conversations, we will ask you questions that you may not have thought of, that are they're not necessarily real estate question. They may be about your hiring plans, your hiring needs. They may be about your technology and whether the space that you're in is adequate to meet your technology needs. And so sitting down with an advisor will give you the benefit of identifying the space that you can't see when you're driving by. We can tell you what spaces are available that are similar. We can also help you sort of right size and determine if that space is too big, too small, just right, and whether it just will fit your business model going forward. Especially if you're about to sign a 10-year lease, what will your business look like in 10 years? And should we be looking at relocating you to space that will be more suitable to help you achieve those business goals?
Absolutely, well said. And I just want to remind our listeners, Rich Casanova here. You're listening to Buckhead Business Radio, and we're having a conversation right now with some folks from Cresa Atlanta, commercial real estate tenant representation, and that is Cloteen Jasmin and Paula-Fowler. And so let's kind of jump back in and talk to us about upcoming. Now you have an acronym there, FASB. Translate here for us.
I will translate that. And FASB, now this is for, you mentioned earlier that I'm a former CPA, so this is the real estate CPA nerd in me.
Nice.
FASB.
Which you don't look like a nerd. I would not put nerd on your name tag.
I am an absolute real estate. Actually, if you look me up on Twitter, I think I say real estate nerd as my Twitter description. But the FASB stands for Financial Accounting Standards Board. Okay. And, why would a real estate person be talking about accounting, you might be wondering. Well, the reality is right now we're in a very exciting time. There are some changes that are taking place in the way that businesses account for leases on the financial statements. And the reason a real estate nerd is talking about accounting right now is because the changes are coming up soon. And what that means for tenants is the way that the leases, when you write your rent check every month, the way that that rent check hits your financial statements is about to change. And
Really?
the impact of the rent payments that you're making right now on your financial statements will actually be different in a couple of years. And tenants really need to understand, particularly business owners and finance people and accountants who represent and advise those business owners, need to understand the impact that something as simple as your office space can have on the value of your business on the financial statements.
And you said it's a few years out, so I don't know if we have time to really expand on it. But yeah, when we write our lease check here for the studio, what are you talking about that it's going to be impacting or changing or?
Well, I'll try not to get too technical.
Yes, we could get into minutia here.
In a simple term, when you write a check every month for your rent, it's just rent expense.
Right.
It's you only have to capture that for 1 year. You capture that on your financial statements. Well, you may have signed a 10-year lease.
Oh, okay.
So you've obligated yourself contractually to stay in that space and pay 10 years worth of rent payments,
right.
But only 1 year shows on your financial statements. Well, the FASB, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, and along with, this has happened internationally, and the U.S. is sort of just now catching up. They're saying you've signed up for a 10-year obligation, so we'd like to see the whole obligation on your financial statements.
Oh, wow. That definitely could be a game changer going down the road if you're not anticipate that at this juncture. So, Paul, let's talk to us, kind of switch gears here about, let's go back to ProWin. And what would folks need to know about that organization, and maybe how would they get involved with y'all's mission over there?
Well, any woman in business is...
I'd mention what ProWin stands for again.
Professional Women in Networking.
Okay.
So it is a networking organization. The organization has official luncheon meetings every other month, so the time commitment's fairly limited. And at those luncheons, they provide professional development kinds of meetings, for example, negotiating skills or presentation skills, that kind of thing, plus a lot of networking around the table. And it's really to promote women's and their businesses. So it's an opportunity to do business with a female across the table.
And how many folks are involved here in the Atlanta market?
Right now, I believe we have more than 150 women participate. In addition to the bi-monthly meetings, there's also what they call a percolator, where you can go and just try out the organization with a breakfast meeting. We're actually hosting one at Cresa in November.
Oh, okay.
You can just sort of test drive it, if you will. And then, of course, they have social events, too, for members only and that kind of thing. This is a great opportunity to meet other females of like kind here in Atlanta and trade ideas and help do business together.
And a dumb question, are there events where the gentlemen are invited as well, or is this
Absolutely.
girls-only club?
No. Men are very welcome to attend the meetings.
Okay. All right, so... and let our listeners know the best way to find out about both groups. Maybe if Cloteen, you want to talk about Cresa, and then Paula mentioned the point of contact for the ProWin.
Oh, sure. Well, if you are on the internet, which hopefully all of the listeners are, would love for you to visit our website, which is www.cresa.com. And you'll see on that website all of the different offices. So whether you've got a business here in Atlanta, or maybe you're thinking about opening a facility, an office or a warehouse in another location, you'll see that we've got a lot of dots on the map with great professionals all over the world. And you can also, on that website, take a look at some of the professionals here in Atlanta. Give any one of us a call. If you'd like to call the office, that number is 404-257-8866. Feel free to ask for me or ask for Paula. We'd love to hear from you.
I'd like to put in a plug for our blog as well.
Okay, sure.
We're very active in social media, and every week we publish a blog on a topic related to real estate in Atlanta. Our blog from last week was on transportation, and it was actually taken from a transportation panel with people from GDOT, from MARTA, and from the new Peach Pass kind of people, GRTA. And so we try to give people an overview of what's going on in the Atlanta marketplace as far as real estate or transportation or where people are moving, what's happening here in Buckhead, that kind of thing. We publish every week, and you can reach that also at Cresa.com and look for the Atlanta office blog.
Okay. And I'm looking at the show notes here as well, and very robust on social media for your office here specifically. Twitter, Cresa Atlanta, and then the website, Cresa, like you said, /Atlanta, and LinkedIn, Facebook. And obviously we're here in Atlanta and in the Buckhead studio, and you all have the Atlanta office here in Buckhead, but we're internet radio, so folks in any one of your other 58 locations, as well as the international offices. I don't know what time zone it is. We're right now in Belgium, but but I'm sure there's probably somebody like tuning in or going to drive right down to your office there. Yeah.
There you go.
All right, so ladies, thanks for being here. Hang tight in the studio. Maybe we have some follow-up questions for you, but pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the show.
You.
And so we want to turn our attention now to Alan Jones, the owner and CEO of, as we mentioned, with HiFi Buys. And I have to mention, he brought in some pretty cool swag I have here, and thank you for that. And but ladies, you didn't bring anything from. You could give me a 10-year lease here. Can you negotiate that deal for free at the studio here?
We will negotiate.
Be more than
your
happy
lease.
to, and it won't cost you a thing.
That's right.
Well, I was meaning the lease would actually be free. Yeah.
Remember, we don't own buildings.
Yeah, because Alan's not charging me anything. You're not charging me for this hat over here.
Not for that. No.
Okay, good. Yeah, not for that. He put a little disqualifier in there. Yeah. If we want some more radio gear and some audio stuff, we need to talk. Yeah, that might cost me. Yeah. All right, so Alan, thanks for joining us here on the show. And as we mentioned, you're the owner and CEO of HiFi Buys, industry veteran. You've led the operations, state-of-the-art Buckhead showroom. Your dedication and longevity has afforded you a rich perspective and unparalleled reputation, both have worked to cultivate for years. 30 years of experience, all in this space, or right?
Actually, yeah. I walked into an audio store, 1984,
right.
And had never really had an experience like that in my life. And I worked for the store 2 days later.
Oh, really?
And
I thought you say just for 2 days and then open your own store. Yeah.
No, I worked for that store 2 days later, and it's really where I kind of, I guess got my wheels rolling in it. The place sold used audio,
right?
And I was. I guess it was a very steep learning curve that I had during that time, and very, very passionate about it. And when you're passionate about something, it's very easy to, do the learning.
Yeah, big time. You kind of live and breathe it, and you got bitten by that proverbial music bug.
Yes.
Do you have any music abilities, or?
I play the guitar a little bit, but mostly just for myself.
Right.
I make songs I can listen to, I guess, yes.
All right, nice. And you mentioned, that was your beginnings. Originally from here in Atlanta, or?
Actually, I grew up in North Carolina.
Okay.
And I moved here in 1988.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice. So let's kind of jump into the big announcement. As we mentioned, the reopening. How many years has it been closed? Or
HiFi Buys went out of business in 2008.
Okay.
Yes, and so we're excited this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to get the doors open and have our grand opening. We've got quite an event.
That's crazy. I mean, it's a atypical story, an unusual story that you don't usually see a brand go away and then come back and kind of reinvent itself. So before we kind of get into future plans and possibilities, just talk to us about, I guess what was the thought behind that, first of all?
Well, I had had a store called Audio Alternative on Indian Trail, Lilburn Road, up in Lilburn for about 20 years. I had been wanting to move to Buckhead for some time, and everything kind of started to fit. It was mentioned to me by the founder of HiFi Buys, Mel Silverman. He said, you might want to think about, because the things that you do and the things that HiFi Buys did fit each other so well. And so I spent a couple of nights thinking about it, trying to decide whether I could give up a brand that I had been establishing for 20 years and take on another. And, the thing that always came back to me was that HiFi Buys was a well-loved brand.
Big time, yeah.
They were a very large company here in town. They were a 13-store chain, did about $100 million here in
Wow.
Atlanta. And I realized that, I started thinking I could probably walk into any restaurant in town and ask the question, how many of you have done business with HiFi Buys? And probably half the people would raise their hand.
Right.
And I was like, well, all I want to do is be able to give people a better experience. And if the idea of me giving up that brand to take on this one allows me to do more of that, it seems like a great thing for me to do.
It's kind of funny. I picked up what you said is after you approached you and had that conversation, you thought about it for a couple of days. So it's pretty much a 2-day rule, right? So you walk into an audio store and 2 days later you work there. Yeah, somebody mentions HiFi Buys. A couple days later, okay, I'll do that, yeah.
I'll have to keep that in mind and see if I reflect on it later.
Yeah, you're like the 48-hour man. Yeah, that's your new title if you want to adopt that.
It's 48 hours. That's my movie.
Yeah, you got to be. It is. Yeah, you got to be careful what you mention to Alec because 48 hours he might be on board with it. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I have a yacht that I'm interested in selling. Yeah, think about it for a couple of days. Get back to me. Yeah.
Okay. Swampland in Florida.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm a transplant to Atlanta, but I remember it seemed like when I was first here, HiFi Buys, it was kind of the go-to. There's just something I don't know about the name, the brand. And at one point they had the amphitheater, right? Or but how many stores?
13.
Wow. Yeah. And outside the market as well, or was it all
they were actually purchased, I believe, in it was around 2000. They were purchased by Tweeter, which is a company out of New England.
Not Twitter.
No.
But Tweeter.
And they also bought Sound Advice in Florida, and so they were kind of trying to do one chain throughout the Southeast. Right. And when the economy really started going south, they were expanding like crazy, and it was just kind of hard to stop the train.
Yeah.
So.
And does Tweeter have a Twitter account?
Tweeter no longer exists. so they're not tweeting.
Right. Yeah. So, and what do you attribute, I mean, obviously you weren't involved at the time, but what do you attribute kind of the bygone of HiFi?
The idea, I guess,
when the big box stores kind of came to the market.
Big box stores came by, and they took part of the market, but there's this middle section of the market that's not absolutely extremely crazy, and also not what I call kind of just stuff in a box.
Right.
Because I think in almost all industries today we have basically things that are over promoted. In other words, greater than what is actually the goods.
Right.
And we have a lot of that in our industry, unfortunately, and I try to start just above that area.
Right.
So we're not really expensive or anything. It's just that we start above what is advertised as, just stuff in a box.
Right, right. And you mentioned the store name, Audio Alternatives.
Correct.
So are you going to meld into one location? Is that the idea then?
That is already done.
It's already done,
The other store in Lilburn is closed. We actually did a soft open in the Buckhead store here back on June 9th.
Okay.
And so we've been open trying to get some of the little details finished up and that kind of thing. And now we're really fully operational and ready to,
nice.
Do our...
Bring it on.
Yes.
So, and why Buckhead?
When you look at it, we have done an awful lot of business inside the perimeter, and we're located outside the perimeter. Uh-huh. We also do a lot of business in the surrounding states as well, mainly because we're probably the only dealer for many of the brands that we carry within 4 or 5 state area. And Buckhead is really the center of retail in the Southeast. And if you really want to have one store and you really want to be able to reach people, this is the place.
It talks about this tagline, get the experience.
It's, everything really is about experience today. And, retailing should be fun. And I find that too many times I would walk into a store and not really, I guess, feel welcomed.
Right, yeah.
And I've always had the idea that people should feel like, they're walking in and they're a friend, and that they should be welcomed with a happy face.
Right.
By knowledgeable people, and people that know what's going on, people that understand what's going on, people that handle and ask questions and can make someone feel comfortable enough so that you can actually find out what they really need.
Especially when you're dealing with technology or audio stuff, and you're not an expert at it. But and I hear what you're saying, that sense of feeling welcome, as opposed to sometimes you go places and it's a disingenuous kind of welcome, or it's kind of a corporate thing of like they say hi to you when you walk in the door, but they don't make any eye contact, and you're like, I feel almost more awkward because are you looking at me or the person behind me, or are you talking in your headset, because they have the headsets on and they're, hey, welcome, and I'm like looking at, and it's a little awkward almost, right?
Yes.
Whereas one of the big brands I'm a big fan of is like the Publix experience, right? You go in there and there's just something organic you can't quite put your fingers on, but you just feel that kind of welcoming feel to that store, that I think is kind of unique in their space.
It's kind of makes you feel like home.
It does, whatever, yeah. I have relatives in other states, and they always talk about, they about that Publix experience. So yeah, if you can kind of carry that over into HiFi Buys without the eliminate the groceries, right?
Yeah, I think one of the things that ends up happening is the when you look at the reviews that have been done on social media out there and that kind of thing, and we do a lot of work on social media, but it is amazing in today's world with the complications of electronics and those kind of things that are out there to keep a really, really clean biography, I guess, of the store out there. And ours is very clean, very positive, very upbeat, and that was kind of where the tagline came from, was the things that customers were telling us, that you guys really, really do give us a great experience.
Great experience, yeah. So several other questions here for you. Before we jump to some more questions, just let our listeners know, once again, you're listening to Buckhead Business Radio. Rich Casanova here, your host. Great conversations here in the studio, but Alan mentioned some point of contacts. You mentioned social media, obviously the website. What's a good way for people to find out about y'all?
Well, we have many things going on.
Yeah, I know. I see a whole list here. Yeah,
HiFiBuys.com for one is where we do an awful lot of blogging. That's also where we house a lot of our the products that are in our stores. We are going to start up some e-commerce as we get a little bit farther down the road in this. Okay. We also have, we're on Facebook at facebook.com/HiFi Buys.
And for people maybe not familiar with it, it's just H-I, right?
Yes,
H-I. Because you could spell it a couple of different ways, yeah.
H-I.
You take it for granted, and most people do, but yeah.
I do. Thanks for that. We look at also on Twitter, also Instagram, and then out on Google Plus, and also LinkedIn as well. And you'll find that we do, I think our social media is very special. Our team has really been excellent. We've been working with SoMedia, and we really appreciate their efforts for what they've done with us. We've got a lot of great promotions going on right now that have really been kind of, how should I say, making our Facebook and Twitter accounts and that kind of thing go nuts. And
blow up, yeah, that's a good thing.
Yes.
That's a case where you want to go viral, yeah.
Yes.
Not so much other times, but yeah. Okay, so we mentioned the grand opening again is this weekend, Thursday through Saturday.
We're doing basically a night where we're going to have a speaker. His name is Michael Frimmer, and he's a writer for Stereophile magazine, and also is the editor for Analog Planet. And he'll be our speaker. He is considered to be one of the gurus of analog. So for those out there in turntables and that kind of thing these days, that's what he's big on. And our store itself plays records, sells records, and that kind of thing as well. Oh, yes. It's actually records in general have become...
they're kind of hip again, right?
They really are. I never left selling turntables, so I've been doing it all my life. And but it is amazing. I mean, we carry turntables in the store from basically at about $450 to start, and all the way up to about $36,000.
Oh my gosh!
Yes,
$36,000 for a turntable.
Yes.
And then you have to have two of them. You're going to DJ, right?
They are not for everyone.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you I'll sell them every week or anything, but they do have their place in this. There are turntables out there in the marketplace that sell for $70,000, $80,000,
and those are the types that are kind of like the celebrity DJs. Are not necessarily, or just
actually not DJs. What we find is it really is people. Again, without actually being in the store to give you the experience, which I would love
we
to
are
invite
on radio.
You down, okay? But when you actually hear a record and hear it done in a well set up stereo, almost anyone that has never heard that before goes, wow.
Wow.
Because it is one of those things where and it's just like myself when I walked into the store some 31 years ago. I didn't know that you could do that in your house, that you could have sound that good.
Wow.
And so that's kind of what turned it for me. And I am not the only one that feels that way.
Right.
And proof of that is I've been able to, stay in business for 20 plus years I've been in it.
So it's what you're describing is almost like you're having that talent or that musician or that band, almost that live experience.
Absolutely.
From the quality of the sound. So talk to us.
Anybody you want, anytime you want.
Nice. So talk to us about kind of your audience. I mean, who are you attracting? Who are you appeal to? What's kind of in your sandbox as far as folks and customers?
I get asked this question a lot.
Yeah.
And I have a very simplistic view on it. But it's basically folks that love movies and love music.
Okay.
And if you're passionate about those things, it would be hard to walk into my store and not have a great time.
Right.
Because it is one of those things to where, people that like the arts, this is very much tied with that. We find a lot of photographers, those kinds of folks, mostly people that are into arts or into music and that kind of thing as well. Yeah. So it's pretty easy.
Now you mentioned movies and music. So just give us a little bit of a rundown of types of inventory or products that kind of expected, but maybe things that people. Is there anything new that you kind of carrying over from audio alternatives that HiFi wasn't in that space in the past, or musicians gear? I mean, kind of what's the spectrum of product inventory, if you will?
I appreciate that. What we do is we carry from our entry-level stereo systems, meaning things that play two channels. In other words, a left and a right.
Right.
And a lot of that product does not have a TV, but you could hook a TV up to it.
Okay.
You end up finding turntables, CD players, which are now almost not sold.
I know, right?
Streaming and the internet has really taken that over. So we carry a product called Sonos, which is most people are familiar and aware of it, and that's one of our entry-level products. And we also have the ability, and one of the things I like about Sonos is you can actually take one of their products and actually put it into a high-end audio system and really get some pretty seriously good sound out of it.
Wow.
You also end up finding we carry a brand called Blue Sound, which is the step up from Sonos, and they also are a streaming company as well. And actually we'll be showing a lot of their new products during the Friday night session. I think one of the other things, 4K television.
I heard about that just recently. Somebody saying you've got to go stand real close to it, and it's almost like you can feel like you're there.
You can almost walk into it.
Right, yeah.
That's what it feels
like. It can be dangerous, especially if you're drinking or you don't want that at a house party.
Yes. We carry all the Sony XBR 4K televisions, and we have 3 or 4 of them on display. Also, they're one of their 4K projectors in our theater. We also have an area in our store called the living room.
Okay.
And it basically is an area that we have set up. We have 2 subwoofers that are mounted on the wall, and the speakers are up in the ceiling, and the system sounds just phenomenal, and yet it looks like a living room. So we were trying to come up with something that the ladies could say yes, and the guys could say yes.
That's key,
and we really have done quite well with that. We're very confident within that thing that we've done a great job within that room.
Yeah, that's well said, because I can just picture that shopping or buying experience, whatever, right? Is the guys get all excited, all this massive amount of gear, and the ladies are kind of like, or other people are like, I don't want it to take over the whole space. Yeah.
Well, we've seen like a kind of like a change where a lot of people were building these theater rooms, and they were doing it down in their basements and that kind of thing. And what we're finding is all that's kind of starting to move back up to the living room where people actually live.
Right.
And so what we want to do is make sure that we're looking at that and taking care of those needs.
Yeah, the big picture kind of thing. So, all right. So I know your focus is right now on this store, but I don't want to jump the gun here. But do you see kind of additional locations, or do you have a master plan, or just enjoying Buckhead at the moment? Yeah.
I'm enjoying Buckhead at the moment. I will say that. it has just been so overwhelmingly positive from the folks in Buckhead. We even did an alumni night for the ex-employees of HiFi Buys and had them all down one night, and that was
nice.
Quite a joy. And so the reception has just been amazing to the brand and to myself actually doing it. And so I just cannot thank Buckhead enough.
Right.
And also our customers of Audio Alternative have also been extremely supportive of the move and that type of thing as well. I'm a lot closer to almost all of them.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Nice. No doubt.
But as far as stores in the future, there certainly is a plan, but it's
let's celebrate this party right now. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember years ago just hearing an interview or a conversation. I think it was the coach of the San Francisco 49ers, Bill Walsh, and classic story he told. He said he was, he had just won the Super Bowl. And you're on cloud nine. You're just enjoying life. It can't get any better, and you're just glowing in that, right? And then he's driving home. He's at the gas station. The guy's asking him like, what's in the plans for next season? He's like, dude, can I just enjoy? I just got my ring. First time ever. Can I just enjoy this right now? Whatever. But people are always curious. So about what's up next. So let's go around the table one more time. If you just kind of remind our listeners. About your company and point of contact, but also we'd like to take a minute or two just kind of say what you do on your off time, kind of we're business radio, but what drives you, what motivates you, if there's groups you kind of want to give a shout out to or organization you support, or where's your Zen location, or do you enjoy other activities, or so ladies, if you'll kind of start us off and just remind us about point of contact for your companies, but when you're not working, what drives you or motivates you? Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. Cloteen Jasmin with Cresa Atlanta, and we're a commercial real estate advisory firm, and we advise tenants on their real estate transactions. When I'm not at Cresa advising tenants on real estate transactions, I'm actually the mother of 2 3-year-old twins.
Oh, my gosh.
There are only 2 of them, so I'm the mother of twins. Right. And I spend pretty much every minute outside of work being a parent and trying to enjoy it, because the advice that I got, if anybody's a parent in the room, is enjoy it, and I try to remember that. And so we do spend a lot of time with our twins outside of work.
What's their favorite activities? What are they into these days? At 3 years old?
At 3 years old right now, interestingly, we're trying to balance the technology, but they do really enjoy technology. So
at 3?
At 3 years
really?
old, they'll take my iPad or my phone.
Oh yeah.
They know how to go to YouTube, and they know how to pull up a Barney video.
Right.
And so it's trying to teach them how to use technology, but also getting outside. We go out in the backyard and pick flowers and look for bugs and things like that too. So we try to balance that.
They grab that iPad and they go to HiFi Buys with mom's credit card. They're ordering stuff. Yeah.
Gotta get them early.
Exactly. But I'm a big food enthusiast as well. So one of the great things about Buckhead, and one of the biggest businesses in Buckhead, I think second to retail, is restaurants.
Oh yeah.
And so I love trying new restaurants, going to new restaurants, and I'm one of the people who will ask the chef what's in it and go home and try to cook it. So I do try to duplicate my favorite restaurant meals at home on probably about a weekly basis.
So your recipe, I'm trying to think of the word. You're taking their recipes and replicating it.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I use the word try with great emphasis, because one of the things that I have learned as I've been cooking more is that keep it simple, and that's what a lot of the best recipes are. It's just don't try and go fancy. Just keep it simple.
That's true. Yeah, we do food and beverage radio here at the studio, and we've had the Georgia Restaurant Association and a bunch of other folks, and they say, I think only second to, I don't know if it's agriculture but the restaurant industry is the second largest in the entire, state. So it's definitely a lot of and especially in Buckhead, they say there's 10 of the top 13 restaurants in Atlanta are right here out our window. Yeah. All right, and Paula?
Well, again, I'd like to put in a plug for ProWin, and we didn't say how to get in touch with ProWin.
Well, let's do that, yeah.
PROWIN.com. And you can go to that website and see what activities are coming up. They have a meeting on September 16th. So I invite everyone listening, male and female, to come by and take advantage of that meeting. They meet at Villa Christina.
Okay, yeah.
Every other month. Also, Cresa is very active in Cornet, which is a real estate organization, and also CREW, Commercial Real Estate Women. So I'm actually very active in both of those organizations as well. And in my spare time, I love Atlanta, and so we are actually people who live in Dunwoody who actually go downtown and walk the Beltline and explore different areas of Atlanta, Midtown, Buckhead, etc. So.
You said Dunwoody and then the Beltline. You don't walk from Dunwoody to the Beltline, do you?
No, but I ride my bike from Dunwoody to Sandy Springs.
Okay, yeah, me too. Yeah. I might see you.
It's a great area to walk and ride your bike.
Oh, big time, yeah. This is very, very cycle friendly. All right, Alan, take us home as the anchor man here. We'd like to say.
I'm Alan Jones. I'm with HiFi Buys, and HiFi Buys is doing their grand opening this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, which is the 17th, 18th, and 19th of this month. And we've got a couple of nice events that are announced on our website, again at hifibuys.com. We are a retailer and an installer of home audio and video goods.
Okay, so you didn't mention that, so you come out and install that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're thinking about putting a flat screen here in the studio, but we don't know if we can. If we start putting holes in the wall over there, is it going to knock down a wall, or we'll have to figure that out. We're thinking maybe right here. This is a little bit more solid.
We can put it anywhere you want.
Make it nice. I'm sure your plate is full right now with all that you got going on in the store. But when you're not hanging out in the store, what keeps you occupied or inspired?
I tend to put more on my plate than I normally do, but right now I'm actually in the process of training for a marathon that I'm going to run on October 11th.
Oh, really?
In Chicago. So
hey.
I'm excited about that. My days off on Mondays are my long run days. So last Monday was 18 miles.
Oh my gosh,
that was a killer. I'm amazed I'm standing like I am today.
Right.
So
I'm getting tired just hearing that. Yeah, wow, that's brutal.
But I enjoy reading. I, when I'm at home, I listen to music a lot, and I really enjoy going out to a lot of the venues that are all over town and listening to live music. And it's, I guess, just such a fortunate spot for me to be in. I'm a lover of music, and I'm able to resurrect this great brand that's about music, and to be able to go out in a city that really has a rich heritage that
big
way.
Time.
And I feel like I'm kind of still. My feet aren't quite touching the ground. Maybe that's how come I can run those 18 miles.
Exactly, yeah. Nice. And maybe have you back when you have an announcement. You mentioned the great venues here in music. Maybe there's some venue sponsorship down the road or whatever. Bring back that
there may be something coming in the future that way, yes, sir.
Exactly, yeah. I just like to leave as a teaser here. All right, so once again, thank you all for joining us here on the Buckhead Business Radio Show. Rich Casanova, and we'll see you next time on the radio.
Thanks so much, Rich.
Yes.